Today is the first in a multi-part series articles looking at the legendary Leica M9. So this is my second M9. The first one I bought back in 2011. I had it to somewhere around 2014, 2015. I sold it, bought a monochrome, and then sold that. All these years later, I missed owning an M9. And I've been doing a lot of articles here on Digital about looking at CCDs. And the color science that Kodak put into this CCD sensor is gorgeous. It's a quirky camera in some ways in 2025, but it's one that absolutely fits my style of shooting. In today's video, I'm going to talk about some of the unique qualities of the camera, how to use the camera, who the camera is a good fit for in 2025. And I'm also going to talk about some of the known issues with this camera. The biggest one being sensor rot, which really is not sensor rot. It's more glass corrosion issues. And can it be fixed? What are the service issues like with the camera? So if you're interested in a camera like an M9, I'm hoping to answer all those questions right off the bat. Then, when I do additional videos, there'll be videos on image quality, comparing the M9 to an M11P. We'll be comparing the M9 to different film stocks, how to emulate the look of film on an M9. And then we're going to look at different lenses. We're going to do an entire series on Leica lenses and comparing and contrasting vintage Leica glass to more modern Leica glass. So we're going to look at more modern 35 Summicrons, comparing it to, say, the Generation 4 Summicron, the king of bokeh. We're going to look at vintage 135s, a series of different 50mm lenses, and talk about what vintage quality versus modern quality brings. So if you want to get into a camera system like a Leica M, you know what'll fit your shooting style. So who is the Leica M9 for in 2025? I think it's for a photographer who's looking for the camera that bridges the gap between the modern digital of 2025 and film cameras. The CCD in this camera is beautiful, but there are some quirks. One of the biggest ones is this camera is not wicked fast. The buffer is only so big. It can't take anything bigger than a 32 gigabyte SD card. There's small limitations like that you need to know going into it. Now, I'm not the kind of photographer who puts a camera, especially like this type of camera, on continuous and just shoots, images like it's machine gun fire. I'm much more like the way I work with my film camera. I see the shot that I want, I compose, I shoot, and I move on. Very rarely do I take more than one frame of any particular image, and that's ideal in this camera. When I talk about heat issues, you'll understand why. Additionally, this camera is really good for someone who wants to get into Leica but doesn't want to spend the $9,000 or $10,000 that an M11 will cost. I picked this camera up for slightly less than $3,000. Great price. And I've budgeted into my overall willingness to invest in the system that if down the road I had to send the camera into Kolari to have a new sensor glass cover put on, that's within my budget. I don't think that's going to be necessary. There's zero corrosion on my sensor, and I've pixel peeped as deep as I can. It was replaced by Leica in 2017. So I really think that this camera is, again, it's for someone who wants that bridge, and also someone who wants a digital file that looks more like the film files that they're used to looking at. Modern high-resolution CMOS sensors don't feel to me like a 35mm camera. They don't feel like 35mm film. This camera at a full frame sensor, 18 megapixel CCD, looks gorgeous. It's easy if you want to emulate the look of a particular film because it really kind of is that sweet spot resolution wise. And unlike my Ricoh GRD4, which I really love, CCD camera, I've done tons of videos on it, because this camera has a full frame sensor, it's possible to get really beautiful out of focus renderings. So that's what I love. I also love the simplicity of the menus on this camera. They're really basic. A button does what it says it's going to do. ISO changes ISO. Info gives you battery and how many more images you have left. It's really a basic camera to work with. But let's now quickly just get out of the way, because I know I'm going to get a million comments on this, the issue of sensor corrosion. So the corrosion that happened to all the M9s really is about the cover glass. Once the surface of this coating is compromised, the corrosion effects can appear over time. And Leica knew about this. Leica for many years would have replaced this. I'm pretty sure it was replaced in my camera at some point. But that's really the only issue. The sensor itself is fine. It was the cover glass over the sensor. Now, companies like Kolari have a new sensor glass that they can put over the sensor. It's about $1,000 to do it. It's not inexpensive, but they then warranty it for life. That piece of sensor glass will never again have any kind of corrosion issues. But this got me really thinking about what caused these corrosion issues. And it's really two things: heat and humidity. The sensor wasn't really sealed as well as it should have. And when it was exposed to extreme humidity conditions for a period of time, that's when the problem happened. So if you lived like in Singapore or Thailand and you had an M9, I guarantee that humidity down there, I don't care if you've got it in a dry cabinet or not, you were going to get the sensor corrosion. You were going to get that glass corrosion. The humidity is just too high. Additionally, if you live in an environment where you're going in and out of like really cold AC to hot weather to AC to hot weather, the condensation that could build up on the sensor glass over time caused this problem. But the good part is it's something that we can absolutely fix in 2025. Kolari's using BG61 glass. It really can't corrode just by design. And what I love is that it comes with a lifetime warranty against corrosion after that period. Now, if I was buying a Leica M9, I would be looking ideally for cameras that have CCD ID sensors of 11 or greater. 15 and 16 are like the last great ones, and they're fully sealed. And as far as I know, none of those ever have a problem. Mine has CCD ID 11, so I'm in that safe spot. The earlier ones can be fine if they were sent in and had the sensor glass cover replaced, but 11 on is sort of where I would want to be investing. So what really fails on an M9 at first? Well, usually it's that cover glass. But once again, if it was serviced, you can get it fixed. If you can get it for a cheap enough price, you can send it out and have it fixed. That's the really big issue. And Kolari's BG61 replacement solves that issue permanently. Now, the electronics on the camera, from amplifiers to ADCs to micro lenses bonds, all of those can fail, but it's rare. Unless the camera has been exposed to really extreme heat, humidity, and shock. But that is something that over time, as these cameras get older, could fail. You can get hot and dead pixels slowly accumulating over time. But once again, those can be fixed by just mapping the DNG file and getting rid of the pixels. And that's something that Leica does continue to do to this day. So realistically speaking, if a M9 has been stored in a really great way, and once again, what we're really talking about here is that amazing Kodak KAF 18500 CCD, and that's the same sensor that's in the M9 and the M9P. As long as it's been stored correctly, there really should be no issue 13, 16, 20 years in. What really matters the most are the heat cycles. The thermal stress that occurs to the camera from heating and cooling during long exposure sections or long exposures. All those kind of things can shorten life. So if you're a type of photographer that wants to shoot 50 images really fast and another 50 images really fast, this might not be the best choice camera. You might be better going with the CMOS-based camera. But if you're like me, and I only shoot, a dozen, 2 dozen images a week, I'm very thoughtful about what I'm going to shoot. Realistically speaking, it should last a very, very long time. But also think about where you live. If you live in an extremely humid environment, this might not be, once again, the best camera. Now, if you've had the sensor glass replaced, that should solve all those problems. But if you're working with an original one, you happen to get one that's still good, that heat and that humidity will cause problems over time once again. You want to avoid leaving cameras like this, of course, in hot cars and stuff like that, because that can cause all sorts of problems. But you need to have in your mind a plan for repairs down the road. Great part is that Kolari, and I'm promoting them. I get no money from anybody, but I'm promoting them only because they're here in the States. I believe there's a company in Europe that'll do this as well. The nice part about Kolari is that they can replace the shutters, they can replace the glass. I've spoken to them on the phone. There's very little that they can't fix out of this camera if there's a problem. The heat load is the real wear factor on CCDs. Anywhere like around 2, 3, 4, 5 second long exposures, that's no problem. The camera will turn on its noise reduction. And in that noise reduction, during that dark frame subtraction, it's basically a rest for the sensor. The sensor is cooling off during that time, and that's really great. As I said, I probably only shoot 30, 40 frames a week, and that's only about 1,500 to 2,000 shots a year. The mechanical shutter in this is rated out to 150,000 cycles, and it would take me literally 75 years at that pace to hit that point. And also the electronics, because I'm doing fewer activations, means less cumulative thermal cycling and less mechanical actuation wear. I also plan on only using this camera at base ISO, which is 160. And again, when you're working at base ISO, that reduces amplifier gain and keeps the sensor cooler. All of these things, once again, about keeping the sensor cooler and by not pushing the camera the way that I might push a camera in 2025. The thermal stress cycles, that's the real big killer on an older camera like this. So I live in Vermont, where we have a very cool climate. You wouldn't know it today, but by and large, we have a very cool climate. That also is going to make sure that thermal stress cycle is lower on my camera. And also, I'm not a heavy shooter. Once again, if I was a heavy shooter cranking tons of frames, that's going to wear these cameras much faster than normal. Another question that a lot of people I know are going to ask is, what about RAW or JPEG with this camera? Now, I am a huge RAW shooter. I want all the flexibility of RAW. JPEGs out of this camera look really beautiful, but for me, this is going to be always something that I'm going to be using in RAW mode. And there's a lot of people out there, if you're first getting into Leica right now and you're looking for lenses, there are a lot of lenses out there that aren't 6-bit coded. I'll get more into this in future videos, but 6-bit coding really isn't necessary on the Leica M9, provided you're going to be shooting in RAW. The 6-bit coding really affects only the JPEG files, because when you bring a file into Photoshop RAW or Lightroom RAW, whatever, all of the lens profiles are right there and you can correct for the lens in Photoshop. You don't need to do it in camera, but the camera does have the ability of setting up specific profile styles. I have my camera set up for 2 profiles, profile number 1 and profile number 2. Profile number 1 is for my 35 Summicron f2, and profile 2 is for my 135 f4. And all it does is I have certain settings that I want for those 2 lenses, and it's very quick to bounce back and forth. None of the lenses that I own are 6-bit, and I don't worry about it at all. All right, so in conclusion, this has been an awful lot of Leica camera porn here that we've been looking at, but I hope I was able to give people that are interested in buying an M9 things to look out for, and what type of shooter is best for this, and where you live, and what type of humidity, what type of environment, and what you need to think about down the road in order to be able to get another 5, 10, 15, 20 years out of an expensive yet amazing camera system. Now, I know there are going to be people asking me about what's the difference between an M9 and an M9P. It's really just luxury. The M9P has sapphire crystal. It's got a better leatherette, engraving on the top, but mechanically and sensor-wise, they are the exact same camera. So thank you very much for listening. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Now go shoot some film or perhaps a digital picture or 2.